I was doing absolutely everything in my life correctly to presumably build self-esteem, but my self-esteem just wasn't improving. So what was going on? I grew up with a low self-esteem. I'm very self-aware of that. But being self-aware of it didn't always help a whole lot. But of course, I wanted to build it. I wanted to feel better about myself. So I started seeking out, videos on, how does one improve their self-esteem? And so a lot of what I got, in fact, most of what I found said, build yourself into being better, go and achieve your dreams, find that job, find that career, find that girlfriend, or at least start moving in the direction of what you want to become, create a vision, and then move in that direction. And so I got started, and you know what? I basically blew it out of the water. I got the career that I really wanted to do, and I was moving forwards with that. I started working out in the gym. I hired a trainer, and I got into the best physical shape of my entire life. I was making the money that I wanted to make, and I was also fulfilling my hopes and dreams. I was moving into the world of acting, which has always been my dream, still is, and pursuing that. And I was also doing a lot more on top of that. But yet at the end of the day, despite how productive I was being and how hard I was working and also just how much ass I was kicking, I still just ultimately didn't feel any better about myself. In many ways, I still just sort of looked in the mirror and felt unworthy. In many ways, I just sort of still felt like I was a piece of shit. So I was doing everything right. So what was going wrong? The advice I got was very much on the right track, but it was missing a very important, crucial piece. And that being, accomplishments do not build self-esteem unless they are internalized. So how do you take your accomplishments and internalize them? Well, you need several different pillars, and you need to put them together and make time to do them. So I'm going to explain exactly in depth what it is, and also I've made it very easy for you. So watch to the end of the video and I'll show you what I mean. Pillar 1 on how to internalize it. Understand that doing the action does not necessarily equate to becoming someone. As a matter of fact, going back to my example, when I was doing one thing after another, I was going to bed exhausted, getting up and doing it again. So when I was accomplishing one thing after the next without truly letting it land, I wasn't building self-esteem. I was just in survival mode, just one thing after another. With pillar 1 of the internalization, you have to anchor the action to a deeper identity. You have to actually connect it to someone or to an element or a value or part of who you are or who you're becoming. The second pillar, the second part, is that it has to reinforce your self-worth. Recognize it within yourself and do not be seeking external validation. This is a value that you've got to recognize within yourself. And then for pillar number 3, it's got to be connected to an emotion. Fun fact about the brain, your mind is more likely to remember something if it's connected to an emotion. Which is not that much of a surprise. I mean, if you think about the things we forget about, it's the things that are boring and forgettable that we usually forget about. So these moments here, they can't just be a boring kind of repetition. They've got to be connected to you emotionally. And then the fourth pillar in this whole thing is reflection, actually taking time to do the reflection. We don't always celebrate our own wins, and sometimes we don't even know how to necessarily celebrate. You have to be careful because sometimes people will use celebrating a win as an excuse to do a bad behavior. So like, let's say I just went to the gym just now, which I did, but let's say I got home and said, okay, great, I went to the gym. You know what? I deserve a pizza. And that's actually just going to obliterate all my gains for that, right? So accomplishing something is not an excuse to go ahead and do something negative. It's time for you to stop and take note of your actual accomplishments and take the time to give yourself that pat on the back and give yourself that win. So those are the 4 pillars of how you do this, but it still might not make total sense to you. You've got pillar 1, 2, and 3, but how are we going to actually, what is the tool? How are we going to actually connect it all together? And the answer is you're going to connect it all together using mantras. Now then, I've actually made it very easy for you. I've written up a prompt for ChatGPT that you can copy and paste and put in to get yourself some prompts. And this is how you actually take your work, your self-esteem work, and turn it into identity statements. So this is what you're going to do. I want you to take the copy and paste the prompt that's in the description of this video, put it into ChatGPT, put in your accomplishment, put in the why of why you did it, and then get yourself some identity statements. You'll get about 10 different ones, and then from there, sort through and pick the ones that resonate the most with you. So here's an example of one I did. Currently, I'm working a job that I don't particularly like. I'm working out on a construction site, and I'm gonna level with you, I hate it out there. I absolutely loathe doing it. But still, I did 8 hours of work on Friday accomplishing that. So if I'm gonna take 8 hours of my day and work on a job that is helpful to society and bust my butt doing that, I deserve to come home and give myself that, take 15 to 30 seconds to just pat myself on the back. So I put in the prompt, and the one that resonated with me the most was, I did 8 hours of work today on a job that I didn't particularly like, but that equals I supported my team today and I take pride in that. And that did resonate with me. It's connected to who I am. It's connected to the accomplishment. It's giving myself that pat on the back. And also it's emotional because I do to actually take pride in that. I thought it wasn't just about me. It was about the team that I was helping to support. And I did support the team. I supported the team very well. So it's good to just stop and take note of that. I showed discipline for 8 hours. I respect that standard. That's another one that really resonated with me because I did. I didn't just show up and just go through the motions. I showed the discipline of showing up to something I really didn't want to do for 8 hours. And I do respect that. Make sure you feel that because you deserve to feel that accomplishment. Let it land. Okay, now here's the real important twist though. You have to give yourself the credit for the efforts and the actions you actually do, but you cannot connect your self-esteem to outcomes because the unfortunate reality is outcomes are not necessarily within your control. For example, I can put my effort into being the best actor in the world, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm appropriate for every single part. I cannot control whether or not someone else wants to cast me in something. Or here's another one. I can be the best boyfriend in the world. I can check mark every positive every positive trait on that list, but I cannot make someone fall in love with me. All you can do is what is within your control, and that is your actions and your efforts. And that's why you've got to connect that to your self-esteem. And to me, every single time you put in a worthwhile action and a worthwhile effort or even just a small accomplishment, you should stop and reflect on that and connect it to your self-esteem. So that is the missing step. That was the missing step that I was missing when I was accomplishing so much and doing so much, but my self-esteem was going nowhere because I wasn't stopping to take the time to reflect and also reflect on it within that particular way, connecting it to your emotion, connecting it to the person you're becoming, giving yourself that pat on the back, and internalizing your accomplishment. Some people actually might think of this as corny, but I don't see it as I don't see it as being corny at all. I mean, you know, when I do my cardio in the morning, I'll say to myself, I chose to move forward. That's who I am now. Let it land. My body is a living mirror of my commitment, and it very much is true. I ran through resistance and made it mine. Sounds corny, but it really isn't. My favorite one is, while other people choose to sleep, I choose excellence first thing in the morning because that is who I am. That is how you take your accomplishment and you connect it to your self-esteem. And frankly, you freaking deserve it. It is stopping and reflecting and celebrating your win in a way in which you deserve. And also the thing that I really love about this is that they're not affirmations. Sometimes, affirmations can be a good thing, but sometimes, affirmations can be like trying to stuff a square peg through a round hole. Because sometimes if you say something to yourself and your brain says, well, that's a lie, I'm in really good shape right now, that's a lie, well, then it's obviously not going to change your self-esteem. But in this case, when you actually do an action, if you go to the gym, or if you do something good for yourself, or if you accomplish even the smallest thing, stopping and reflecting on it is something that you deserve, especially right then and there in the moment, when you've just done it. There's also a lot of different things that I didn't realize, a lot of positive things about myself that I didn't realize existed until I started doing this. For example, when it comes to acting work or acting practice, I'll remind myself that I gave my inner world a voice today. That's courage. And I never actually considered that before. Even doing this right now requires courage, so you better believe when this video is uploaded up online, I'm going to stop and reflect on it and say, yeah, you know what? It's difficult to be vulnerable, be yourself, be raw, and give yourself a voice in a world where so many people tell you to shut up. That takes courage. That's connecting what I did to. And it has nothing to do with how many people watch this video either, because again, that outcome is not something that I have any control over. All I have control over is whether or not I made this video and put it out for people to see. So, just a final little recap. If you're having the same problem as I am, where you're accomplishing a lot in your life, but it doesn't seem to be boosting your self-esteem, doesn't seem to be picking you up or boosting you up, you have to make sure that you're anchoring the action to a deeper identity, you're reinforcing your self-worth, and it has to be connected to an emotion. And take the time out of the day to actually do it. I prefer doing these at the very end of the day after a full day of accomplishments, and reflect on all your accomplishments. Sometimes your accomplishment doesn't have to be something really big, but it can be that you helped out one of your friends that day, or it could be that you chose to eat well that day, or you chose to hand out some helpful advice, or you were there for someone for a quick moment when they were feeling down. There's so many accomplishments that are worth recognizing in the moment that we often don't take our time to recognize. Maybe because we feel like they're not Instagram worthy, I don't know. But still, you should do it. You should recognize your win because, damn it, you deserve it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Share this video if you thought it was helpful, subscribe, and all the best.